back to our Radiant series. This time we are going to create our first map in Radiant. But first, to not run into further issues, we need to do something first. Go inside your Call of Duty main folder. Open up your pack 0. From there you extract all the folders with an X inside. Drag them into your main folder. This will take a small while. This will fix the issue that you don't see your models, your X models inside the Radiant when you place them. Also, what you can do is extract your textures folder. You can see now there are some default textures, but we also need the textures from your pack 0. Open that up, select all the textures inside here and put them inside the textures folder. Alright, you also see the CoD Radiant created a maps folder inside of your main. There we have dawnville.map file. This is a basic map file which comes with the CoD tools. I also have a test map here. I'm going to delete that because I'm creating a new one to show us our first map. Alright, we want to make a small house for our player on our first map. First thing I want to do is go to textures, common, and use the co-architecture. I want to make a ground plate for our player to stand on. On our grid view, I left click and drag out. This creates our first brush. You can edit this brush while it's selected in red. It's highlighted in red while it's selected. You can drag on either side to manipulate the brush. I wanted to make it like a square, so I make it 512 by 512. It's a good size, I think. Alright, hitting escape, you deselect it. On the right 3D view, you have your camera view of your world. To move around, you right click inside the window and move your mouse. With control, you can go up and down, and holding control and shift, you can look around freely, also moving your mouse. Alright, now let's build some walls around our ground plate. I'll make another brush. And you can see we only can do like the same thing here, but we want to make a vertical wall now. To do this, I'm gonna press Control Tab, and it changed my view, my axis on this view here. I will put that one above, and you can see we're building a wall now. That's our first wall. I scroll in with my mouse wheel to get a little closer, to make this like 184 high. I want this wall now on the other side too. So you can press escape to deselect the brush and make the same thing here. But you also could just, I show it, you can press backspace to delete a brush like this. You can also just select this brush here shown on this side. With shift click, it's selected the whole brush. Press spacebar to copy the brush. Now you have a copy of that brush. You can drag and drop it to the other side here, like shown. Alright, I want to make these two walls now. I copy that brush again, and I change my view to the top view again. To rotate the brush, here you can either do that like this to drag it again and make it like this, Or what you can do is, I copy this one again, you can use the toolbars. On this toolbar there are a lot of things which are very useful. For example, a rotate button. I want to rotate it in the C axis. Click it and it rotated 90 degrees. Perfect. Readjust it, hit escape. Okay, now we have one last wall to do. Select this spawn again, press spacebar, put it over here. Alright, pretty nice. We have our first room. And now I want to give it some useful textures. Okay, to texture the ground, I select the bottom, but as you can see, it selects the whole brush. For performance issues and other mapping things, I only want to select the top side of the brush. How to do that? Press Ctrl Shift click. So you only have the top side selected, as you can see. And now I want to give it a ground texture. Let's say I go to Normandy and I want a floor. They don't have any floors. Okay, let's say Austria. Floor. Alright, I want to use like this texture here. This is my floor texture. Now I want to texture the walls. You can select multiple things with the Ctrl Shift click. And now you have these walls selected. Select another texture. Austria. Walls. Scroll through, whatever you like. I want, let's say, I want some rock walls or some other walls. All right. Let's say I'm not happy how this texture looks like. I want it to be a bit, the tiles a bit bigger. So I select the surface again, press S on your keyboard, and it opens up the surface inspector. There we have a tool to manipulate the textures. You can shift the textures and you see the texture is moving on the wall. And I want to just make it, I want to stretch it a little bit. So you can make this one here and it gets bigger. I want it even bigger, like this. Alright, that's how to do it. Now, we could save that map, but we could not plane it yet. To plane it, we need to add a spawn point. How to do that? On your grid view, you press the right mouse button, go down to MP, deathmatch spawn, and it will spawn a red box. Make sure this box is not stuck to the ground, it's somewhere above. What you also need is a deathmatch intermission. It's also in MP here. Place that. Oh, now you see our spawn disappeared. That's because we had it still selected here. I forgot to deselect it. Now I deselect this one and we'll put our spawn again. Yeah, right here. It's floating, you see. Alright, now let's make a ceiling of that room. You can just select this one. And what I like to do now, because the ground texture is above and not on the ceiling, I just select it again, press U. With the button U, you load all textures which are in use. Cock it again, and then, oh, it's bugging. I think there are two brushes. Yeah. Cock it again, and then just select the ceiling and put the texture there. Alright, we have our first room done. We are going to save that map now. Just press Save As, give the map a name, I call it Test, and save it. When your map is saved in the folder called Main Maps, there you see your map folder. Second step is now to compile your map. How to do this? You copy that batch file over here, copy that, rename it test.bat, open it, right click, edit. You can, this is like the basic batch file they give with the CoD tools, but we don't need it this complicated. You can delete all these files and just where it says Dawnwell, you write test. Save it and double click. Now it will compile your map. When it's finishing compiled, it will say here you can press any key. You see it generated these 4 files. What's important for us is the BSP file. The BSP file is basically your map file. What we're gonna do now is create a new folder. You name that folder MP. To test your map, you just put your test.bsp inside that MP folder and load up your game. You can now run your game. Well, I just started the wrong game. Load up your game. You can load your map with a deathmatch test. And as you can see, we're inside our map. That's our first room.